Hey guys, how's it going? This is Mr. Zarea here at Landrum Middle School. Today we're going to take a look at the bandsaw. We're going to figure out all the different important parts of the bandsaw. And we're going to figure out how to use it properly and safely. But remember, before we do anything, we always have to make sure that we're always using our brain and we're thinking things through. Okay? So, first of all, this is the bandsaw. In this shop there are 3 different bandsaws. This just happens to be the one that I'm going to use today. The difference between this bandsaw and the other 2 that are on either side is that this one's not connected to the dust collection system. So it's not connected to the yellow pipe. If you use the other 2, you're going to have to turn on the dust collector just like we did for the radial arm saw. Alright? So let's go over the parts. First of all, any machine that's touching the ground, the part that's actually touching the ground is called the base. Alright? So down here is the base. Coming up from the base, we have this little power switch area, and so this is our power switch, our on and off switch. On some bandsaws that is located up here, but on this bandsaw it's located down here. Coming up from the power switch, you can see that there are 2 knobs down here that look like sink faucet knobs. These are angle adjustment knobs. If I loosen these, that'll allow me to tilt the table to get an angled cut whenever I'm cutting through the piece of wood. We're not going to worry too much about that. I just want you to know what that is. Alright? Coming up from there, we have the table. That is the flat surface that we're going to be using to place the piece of wood on, and we're going to be cutting the piece of wood on that. Alright? So this is the table. In the center of the table, there is a little circular piece of metal that is easily removed, and this is called the throat plate. So throat, like right here in your neck, and plate like what you eat off of for dinner. So this is a throat plate. This throat plate provides a couple different purposes. Number 1, it's to allow us to know that if our fingers are on top of that throat plate, our fingers are too close to the blade, we need to move our hands. The other thing is it lets me easily remove this from the table, so I have access to a part that you don't necessarily need to know, but it's called the lower guard or lower guide down here. Coming through the center of the table and the throat plate is the thing that actually does all the cutting. That's the blade. Okay, so this is the blade. This is called a bandsaw because it goes all the way around over 2 wheels. Think of it as like bicycle wheels, and we have a blade traveling all the way around, one continuous blade. Now, the part that is surrounding that blade is called the upper guide or upper guard. Whatever you want to call it is fine. So upper guide, upper guard. Alright, so those are pretty much all the parts that you need to know of. So now let's take a look at how to actually use this machine. Before we use any machine, we've got to make sure that we take care of a couple of different safety items. There are 5 specific items that you've got to take care of. Number 1, you always have to wear your safety glasses. Number 2, tuck in your shirt. We don't want your shirt getting hung up in a machine. Number 3, make sure that we can see from the elbow all the way to the tip of your fingers. So no long sleeves, no sweaters, no jackets. All that stuff has to be removed. The next thing is no rings, watches, necklaces, dangling earrings, lanyards, or any jewelry of any type that's going to get hung up in the machine. And then the last thing, of course, which I don't have the problem with, is you got to tie your hair back. So girls or guys with long hair, make sure that you tie back your hair. Alright? Now, this machine can do a lot of great things for us. It's kind of like a super large scroll saw, except it's not nearly as delicate as the scroll saw is. Okay? This machine does a good job of cutting sort of straight lines. If we use other tools with it, we can get pretty much a perfectly straight line. But we typically use these to cut gentle curves. Okay? Only exterior curves, not interior curves. Alright? So, anytime you need to cut something fairly quickly, or you need to cut something that has a slight turn to it or a curve to it, we can use this. The way I have it set up, we cannot use these blades to cut really tight curves, but they still will cut a curve regardless, which I'll show you that in just a little bit. Now that we know how to take care of our safety items, the next step is you need to have a plan. Before you come over to the machine, you need to make sure that you know exactly what it is that you're going to be doing when you get to the machine. So I just picked up this piece of scrap wood, and my plan is I want to cut this curve. Alright? So I already have an idea of what I'm going to do, so now I'm ready to come over to the machine. When I get to the machine, I want to make sure that it is completely turned off. I don't hear anything running, I don't see it moving, so I know that it's off. Now that I know it's off, I want want to clear off any sawdust that's going to get in the way and it's going to cause my cut to be at a slight angle. So it's clear. Next step, I'm going to take my piece of wood or whatever it is that I'm cutting and I'm going to set it on the table. I want to set it to the outside of the blade, so the right side of the blade. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to reach behind, back here, and I'm going to loosen this thumb screw. I don't need to keep turning it, I just need to loosen it. It's already loose. I barely turned it an eighth of a turn. Now that it's loose, I'm going to lift this upper guide or upper guard up, and then I'm going to slide the piece of wood next to the blade so it's touching it. Once I'm doing that, I'm going to take my smallest finger, which in my case is my pinky, and I'm going to set it flat on the piece of wood next to the blade, and then I'm going to lower the upper guide or upper guard and set it on top of my pinky. I'm not going to slam it on my pinky, I'm just going to lower it down. Then I'm going to reach back and I'm going to tighten this thumb screw as tight as I can get it. Now, why would I do that? Well, really important reason. This helps kind of stabilize the blade as I'm cutting, but the guard or guide also prevents my fingers from getting too close to the blade if I'm really not paying attention. So since I use my pinkies, those are my skinniest fingers, most likely the finger that I'll end up cutting is my thumb because that's where I'm going to be guiding with. My thumbs will not fit through there. Okay? So just the smallest finger's width is the height that you need to bring that guard up. Now that I've taken care of that, I'm actually ready to start cutting. Remember, this is not connected to a dust collection system, so I don't have to worry about that for this particular machine. Now, in order to cut, what we have to do is we always stand where the imaginary cut line is pointing right at our belly button. If you're shorter, it's going to be pointing right here at your chest, the center of your chest, or your neck, or even your nose. It depends on how tall you are. That is the cut line. We want to make sure that anytime we are using this machine, we are not letting our fingers cross that cut line. If we cross that cut line and we continue pushing, we are going to end up cutting our fingers, and then how are you going to pick your nose? Okay? So, I'm also going to do this in a specific way where I'm going to keep my hands on the outside of the blade. I want to try to always stay away from keeping my hands on the inside of this area because then I lose some freedom, and if something goes wrong, I can't easily just move away. Alright? So my goal is to cut this, so I'm going to keep this part and not keep this part, so I want my blade to be on this side of this curved line. So I'm going to stand in front and I'm ready to cut. Once I'm ready, I'm going to make sure nothing's touching the blade. I'm going to go ahead and turn the machine on. With both of my hands on the outside of the blade, I am simply going to push in and I'm going to follow that curve that I have drawn. And I'm going to take my time. There's no rush. Okay? And I'm just going to keep going. I'm done about halfway. And almost there. Notice my hands are always staying on the outside. And boom. I cut through really slowly. I can leave that there. When I'm done, I'm going to turn the machine off. The machine is still moving, so I'm not going to grab anything. I'm going to wait for that blade to come to a complete stop. Once it's come to a complete stop, I can take the parts away and see exactly what I did. You can see the curve has been cut. Alright? So, that's pretty much it. What do I do next? Well, your next step is really simple. Reach back, loosen this thumb screw, lower the guard. After you've done that, you want to clean everything up. So I blew off all the sawdust. In this case, this machine has sawdust everywhere. I would need to go get a broom, sweep all this up, take it to the dust collection system. Now that I've taken care of that, I just want to remind you guys, make sure that you're always using your brain, always make sure you think it through, and always do the right thing. Take it easy.